Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode corporate filings so you don't have to. Ever wonder what companies are really saying in those mountains of paperwork? Well, today's filing is from TransAct Technologies Incorporated, and let's just say it's a mixed bag. We've got director elections, accounting firm changes, and some interesting executive compensation details. Buckle up, because some of these numbers tell a story that's more complicated than it seems. First up, the basics. TransAct is holding its annual meeting in May. Stockholders get to vote on electing directors, picking an accounting firm, and giving their thoughts on how the top executives are paid. Important stuff for anyone invested in the company. It's all happening online this year, which they say is for expanded access and cost savings. Now let's talk about who owns the company. We have a list of big shareholders, those with more than 5% of the stock. 3025 Capital LLC holds a little over 10%. B. Riley Financial Inc. has about 8%. Silverberg Bernstein Capital Management LLC comes in with roughly 7%. Harbour Discovery Fund LP owns about 6%. And then there's Bart Schulman and Richard Theron Jr., each with around 5%. It's good to keep an eye on who the major players are because their moves can really affect the company. Time for some accounting talk. The company's switching its independent registered public accounting firm to CBIZ. There are a lot of technicalities about why involving Markham, the previous firm, being acquired. Long story short, the audit committee gave it the thumbs up, and now CB is in charge of auditing their books. Speaking of auditors, it's always worth a quick look at the fees. In 2024, Markham billed $362,000 for audit services. It's good to know how much a company is spending on its audits because it's all our money. Here's where things get juicy: executive compensation. Stockholders get to vote on whether they approve of how the big bosses are getting paid. It's a non-binding vote, meaning the board doesn't have to listen, but it's a good way to send a message if you're a shareholder. Let's break down the 2024 pay packages. The CEO, John Dillon, got a base salary of $61,013, base salary of $61, got a base salary of $62. And $151,745, Stephen DeMartino. The CFO had a base salary of $405,268.45. Brent Tate Smyer, the CTO, earned a $34,744, $76,452. Brent a $33,873.860, earned a $34,445.735. Brent Rixmeyer, the $73,816.800, and total compensation of $1,405.48 and 700 TE cars and $870.80. The equity awards are a big part of how these guys get paid, and that's tied to the company's performance. So how were the bonuses determined? Well, it was based on a mix of financial objectives like FST revenue and strategic objectives, those soft, squishy things that are hard to measure. They didn't hit threshold, and as a result, their bonuses were only around 16 to 22% of target. The compensation committee decides on the equity awards, and they take into account things like market data, what similar companies are paying, and the individual's role and how well they performed. Now it's time to see how the big boys are eating. Equity awards means how much stock they have at the end of the year. Stephen DeMartino comes in hot with $229,675 in the options column. What those numbers mean is that if the company does well, those options are very valuable. But on the flip side, if it doesn't, those options have little value. There's a clawback policy too, meaning if an executive messes up and commits a serious legal violation, the company can take back some of their incentive-based compensation. It's a way to hold people accountable. What happens if these guys get canned? We got details on that too. If they're terminated without cause, they get severance, which includes things like salary continuation, health benefits, and sometimes even a prorated bonus. And if there's a change in control, meaning the company gets bought or sold, the payouts can be even bigger. Looking at the pay versus performance, the report compares executive compensation to the company's total shareholder return and net income. For 2024, for the former principal executive officer, the compensation was around $1.4 million. For the current one, it's around at $150,000. What this means is they got paid less compared to what they did in 2023. Average compensation for other officers also went down. Compared to the year before, so with that said, what did the shareholders actually earn? If in 2021 you invested 100 AXO, you would only see $39 in 2024. Lastly, let's skim through the directors. Heidi Ortiz. Arlinger is being paid a higher retainer than the other directors, and there is no mention of reason. The other directors make $40,000 or $45,000 in stocks, while Heidi makes $65,000 in stocks, while Haiti makes $65,000 for $45,000 in stocks. While Haiti makes $65,000 for $45,000 in stocks. While Haiti makes $65,000 S, $45,000 in stocks. Finally, if you have suggestions of other candidates for the board, make sure you send those to the corporate secretary and follow the rules in the bylaws. Okay, so what's the story here? On the one hand, TransAct is working to implement sustainable business practices, and they're focused on their employees and maintaining ethical standards. That's all good stuff. But on the other hand, the financial performance for 2024 wasn't great. Revenue and profits were down, and that's reflected in the lower bonuses for the executives. The board seems like they're trying to make sure management is aligned with shareholders through equity awards and clawback policies, but the numbers tell the real story. The total shareholder return went down, so shareholders are paying for everyone. There is risk that some may leave the company or retire. So where does TransAct go from here? They need to focus on turning those revenue numbers around. That FST revenue is key, and they need to figure out how to get that growing again. At the current state, if I had to guess, the price per share is fairly valued and perhaps slightly high. Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown helpful, give us a like, leave a comment, and subscribe for more corporate decoding.